What happens when one of the greatest champions in tennis quietly calls out the world number one and then makes a move that seems to prove her point? That's exactly what happened when Venus Williams stepped into a conversation that suddenly became much bigger than tennis. Because this wasn't about forehands, rankings, or trophies. It was about something every elite athlete eventually faces. What do you do when things stop going your way? And Venus had a very clear answer. After decades at the top of professional tennis, she believes champions aren't defined by how they win. They're defined by how they lose. And her comments about Aryna Sabalenka sparked a debate that spread across the entire tennis world. Here's why. Aryna Sabalenka arrived at Roland Garros carrying enormous expectations. She wasn't just another contender. She was one of the most feared players in the tournament. Power, aggression, intensity. Her game is built to overwhelm opponents before they have time to settle. When she's playing her best, she can make even elite players look powerless. So naturally, expectations were massive. Many expected her to make a deep run, maybe even win the title. But the French Open has a way of exposing things that don't always show up elsewhere. Clay slows everything down. It rewards patience, decision-making, adaptability, and sometimes, it exposes parts of a player's game that pure power can't hide. This time, the tournament didn't just test Sabalenka's tennis. It tested her emotionally. When the loss came, the reaction became bigger than the result itself. In her post-match comments, Sabalenka spoke openly. She admitted she felt overwhelmed. She questioned whether she even wanted to keep playing. At one point, she joked about wanting to quit tennis and asked if Paris had rage rooms. People immediately reacted. Some praised her honesty. Others saw something different. To many fans, this was refreshing. Proof that even world-class athletes struggle. Proof that confidence on the outside doesn't always mean calm on the inside. But not everyone interpreted it that way. And then Venus Williams weighed in. When Venus speaks, people listen. Not because she talks often, but because she's lived through almost everything professional tennis can throw at someone. Grand Slam victories, painful losses, injuries, pressure, global attention, expectations that lasted decades. She understands disappointment from the inside. And her response wasn't to dismiss emotions. It was more nuanced than that. Venus acknowledged something athletes rarely say publicly. Losing hurts, sometimes more than people realize. She explained that one of the hardest parts isn't losing to someone else. It's feeling like you let yourself down. That feeling stays with you. It follows you after the match. It keeps you awake. But then she added something that changed the conversation. She said moments like this happen to everyone. Every player. Every career. And despite the frustration, most athletes would gladly trade places with someone having the kind of season Sabalenka was having. That perspective mattered. Because Venus wasn't arguing that emotions are weakness. She was arguing that perspective matters during emotional moments. And then came the line everyone started talking about. If you need to release frustration, go find a rage room. It was funny, blunt, classic Venus. But underneath the joke was a serious point. Feel everything. Just don't let the emotions become bigger than the reality. That idea connects directly to something else Venus did around the same time. Her decision to partner with Alex in Hamburg. At first glance, it looked like a normal doubles decision. But her explanation caught attention. Because she didn't talk about rankings. She didn't talk about power. She talked about mindset. Venus said she wanted someone who understands how to change rhythm. Someone who uses variety. Someone who adapts. Someone who thinks through difficult moments instead of forcing outcomes. That immediately got people talking. Because whether intentional or not, it sounded like the exact opposite of the criticism surrounding Sabalenka. Alex wasn't being praised for dominating. She was being praised for solving problems. For adjusting. For staying composed. For trusting the process. And Venus seemed to value that deeply. Throughout her career, Venus has always believed tennis is more than hitting harder. The best players don't just overpower opponents. They find answers. They change pace. Use angles. Switch strategies. Stay patient. When one plan fails, they find another. That flexibility doesn't just apply on the court. It applies emotionally too. Because setbacks happen. Bad tournaments happen. Pressure happens. The players who last aren't always the most talented. They're often the ones who recover fastest. The ones who don't turn one loss into a crisis. That appears to be what Venus was pointing toward. Not perfection. Recovery. What made her comments stand out even more was this. Alex wasn't coming off some unstoppable winning streak. She had setbacks too. Losses. Disappointments. But Venus admired how she responded. That distinction says a lot. Winning is easy to admire. Everyone looks confident when things are going well. But defeat reveals habits, mindset, character. Venus seemed less interested in who wins every week, and more interested in who stays steady when they don't. That's a much harder skill, and maybe a more valuable one. Critics of Sabalenka argue this wasn't the first time emotions became part of the story. They point to previous defeats where frustration became as memorable as the tennis itself. Supporters disagree. They argue athletes shouldn't have to hide emotions to appear strong. And honestly, that's what makes this conversation interesting. Because both ideas can exist at once. Athletes are human. Pressure is real. Disappointment hurts. But elite competition also demands perspective. That tension never fully disappears. Every champion has to figure out where that balance lives. And maybe that's the bigger message hidden inside everything Venus said. She wasn't saying don't feel. She wasn't saying suppress frustration. She was saying don't let one moment convince you the whole journey is broken. One tournament doesn't erase a season. One loss doesn't erase years of work. One bad week doesn't define a career. Champions still get angry. They still question themselves. They still struggle. But eventually, they zoom out. They reset. And they move forward. That might be the hardest skill in sports. Not winning. Recovering. Because talent gets attention. But perspective builds longevity. And maybe that's why Venus's comments hit so many people. They weren't really about Sabalenka. They were about something every competitor eventually faces. What happens when expectations collide with reality? Do you spiral? Or do you adjust? That answer might matter more than the result itself. So what do you think? Was Venus right about keeping perspective? Or was Sabalenka's honesty exactly what modern sports needs? Drop your thoughts below. Because this debate is far from over. But there's another layer to this story that makes Venus's reaction even more interesting. Because tennis has changed. Today's players compete in a completely different environment than previous generations. Every match becomes content. Every interview becomes a headline. Every facial expression gets clipped, posted, analyzed, and debated. A player doesn't just lose anymore. They lose publicly. And that changes everything. Years ago, frustration stayed inside locker rooms. Now it trends online within minutes. One emotional interview can create more discussion than the match itself. That pressure is impossible to ignore, which is why some fans defended Sabalenka immediately. They argued she wasn't being dramatic. She was being real. They said sports fans constantly demand authenticity from athletes, but the moment athletes show vulnerability, people criticize them for not looking strong enough. That argument resonated with a lot of people, because there's truth in it. Elite athletes aren't machines. They feel pressure, fear, exhaustion, and sometimes those emotions spill into public moments. But that still brings us back to Venus. Because her perspective wasn't built in an era without pressure. She experienced pressure too. Different pressure, but relentless pressure all the same. She competed while carrying expectations that extended far beyond tennis. She learned to perform while being watched constantly. So when Venus talks about emotional discipline, people listen. Not because she claims emotions don't exist, but because she spent decades learning how not to let emotions make decisions. That's the difference. Emotion versus reaction. Feeling something isn't weakness. Being controlled by the feeling is where problems begin. And that may explain why she kept returning to perspective. Perspective changes everything. A terrible day doesn't mean a terrible year. A painful loss doesn't mean failure. One difficult moment doesn't cancel progress. Elite athletes understand something most people eventually learn too. Success isn't linear. It moves. Up, down, forward, backward, then forward again. The athletes who survive longest stop expecting perfection. Instead, they build systems for recovery. That's what resilience actually looks like. Not never falling. Getting back up faster. And maybe that's what Venus saw in Alex. Not someone who avoids setbacks. Someone who knows what to do after them. Because adaptability isn't just tactical. It's emotional. If your game breaks down, Adjust if confidence disappears. Adjust if expectations become too heavy. Adjust. That ability might not create viral highlights, but it builds careers. And maybe that's why this conversation feels bigger than tennis. Most people know what it feels like to have one bad result suddenly feel bigger than everything else. One bad exam, one failed project, one rejection, one difficult month. Suddenly, the mind starts rewriting the whole story. You forget the progress, forget the wins, forget the bigger picture. That's the trap Venus seems to be warning against. Don't let one chapter become the entire book. Because if even world number ones question themselves, maybe the goal isn't avoiding doubt. Maybe the goal